information that are missing that it would be good to know. So I would say that as soon as you have some additional information, that you can provide this committee with some information as to the status and how many people, whether people are still living in those properties and what is the condition, et cetera, et cetera.
Of course, there probably are going to be some that are occupied, and those are the ones that will most likely if there is evidence of code violation, we will definitely ask the inspectional office to put that on the top of the pile. Anything that's distressed, we certainly make note of that and address it quickly. So that's a given. But most of them that are not, we still send a letter. There's always some type of violation involved, especially if this has been vacant for a while. Sometimes there's break-ins and there's dumping. So there's always something that we can pressure the servicer to do.
The other thing that we're doing with this grant also is, as we go out and do inspections, we also look for houses that are in distress, that are occupied, people that are living and paying their taxes and all of that, and we give them information about the other programs that we offer, like the lead abatement program, rehab programs, and stuff like that we have. So that's a good thing that, we go out and we do inspections, and if we see a property that needs some work, then we give them information and tell them to come to the city, and we can talk to them and give them some options to either fix the house or give them grants if they qualify.
You mentioned something about the Attorney General, that some of these properties are being handled by the Attorney General?
The Fannie Mae properties.
I'm sorry?
The Fannie Mae owned properties, those are being handled by the Attorney General's office.
The Attorney General also provides us a list of phone numbers, direct phone numbers that we can deal with. The first 5 that I tried are not in their database, but I'm working with other cities who have preview to that information, so that's helpful, that we're able to, at least get an email out to them.
Okay, so before we get to Councilor Monte, I should start it off with what the goal of this project is. So very briefly,
Sure.
Talk about how long are we looking to do this project? What's the goal? And this is like phase 1, right? The first phase. So talk about that, and then Councilor Monte's got a question.
Sure. The program runs about 1.5 years. I believe in August in 2015 would be our deadline. And the goal of the program is to first research foreclosed properties, identify which ones they are, and identify which ones are the most problematic that have code violations. And that's why inspections are very key to doing that. Identify any distressed properties other than that is foreclosed as well. And then to set an implementation with the servicer about a course of action on repairing the properties and give them, otherwise, the last pressure would be go to receivership, and that's when we take control.
So the main goal is to get those distressed properties to be habitable again.
Okay. And so is this the complete list, or this is the beginning list and there's more to come?
There's more to come.
Do we have a ballpark as to how much we're looking at when this list is complete, or is this like halfway through the list?
Well, this list is a list of foreclosed properties. The market changes daily. So we have these properties right now. Tomorrow, maybe 10 of those properties can fall out of that list because they were sold or they were into a receiver, or anything can happen. And then 10 more can be added to it because they just foreclose on. So it changes daily.
That's frustrating in some
We
ways.
don't have an actual number.
Councilor Almonte.
Thank you. You had mentioned that you have tried reaching out to some companies and they haven't responded to you.
Correct.
Is that correct? Now, how long of a grace period are we giving them to respond, and are we putting fines or implementing fines or letting them know that after the second notice or as of such a date, we are going to start implementing fines for whatever reason?
We give them 3 weeks, actually, 3 weeks to respond to us. After 3 weeks, we send them a second demand letter, and then if there's no response, then that's when the inspectional office comes in and starts the receivership process.
Okay.
And-
Now, with the a type of fee that would be associated with that. On that second demand notice, do we let them know you have been notified 30 days ago? This is our second demand notice. As of such a date, we are going to be or will be charging you a fee of X, Y, Z amount of money per day that you don't respond or do not take care of the property?
We don't charge a fee. What happens is the city owners on not registering for the event, most of them are not registered, what I'm seeing. There's very few that are. And the ones that are not registered, automatically the fee kicks in. And that's when the city inspections office sends a letter, and that's when they attach the fees. Because they're the ones who
Correct.
monitor the fees. We can't do it from community development standpoint, but from their end.
Okay.
They start tackling on those fees.
Because I do know that they did that. I didn't know if you had a process, the community development had a process of their own, impartial of the inspectional services department. And so you guys are looking into, finding out which ones are owner occupied and all of that stuff. And now, like, everything is being put on there, like, if they need roofing and siding, and if they are occupied by someone, are we relieving the tenants of that property because that property is inhabitable at the moment?
Well, what happens is, if it's occupied, my understanding of the inspectional office's expectation is they would go in and inspect the interior. I'm only allowed outside. If it's abandoned outside, I can't get in. So if it's interior, then I would bring inspectional along with me. They'd have to go back in and inspect inside to check the conditions. And then that would bring a totally different approach to pressuring the servicer. Definitely, our game plan is to work basically in the poorest neighborhoods, which is the Ellington neighborhood, and then go through to the Prospect Hill. So we have some type of process in place to make sure that most of the neighborhoods are canvassed.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
So the next time, so far you said that you've been bringing these properties over to inspectional services. And have they been going forward with any kind of citations?
So we have 5 citations. For those 5 that I'm starting to communicate with the servicer. The next process is, if they don't respond to the second demand letter, those 5 will automatically go into the receivership process. And we, along with this, we're working with them to develop those process and determine how that will work.
Give me a flavor of what kind of citations you're tagging on.
There are code violations for lighting, security,
Safety.
dumping, trash, chipping paint, abandoned cars, there's cracked foundations, windows.
The citation that you're sending includes a citation as a bill,
For
right?
code, for health and code, yeah.
So what kind of money are we looking at? I mean, I know that each one is different, so give me the one you just mentioned, how much is that? Are you looking for the bank to pay?
Right, I honestly don't know the monetary value of that. I didn't ask that information from the inspection office because that's something that I wouldn't be monitoring. But I certainly can find out and get back to you.
Yeah, so we're gonna be doing this periodically, Council President, so another 3 months or so. They'll be back here giving us a further update, and that may be one of the questions that we have. And this list will, like you said, it will change dramatically. As a matter of fact, in my district right here, I know one of these houses right here has been sold.
Yep.
And it's been totally renovated, and so
Right.
it probably shouldn't be on this list anymore, I wouldn't think.
Right, because that's what it is we have to go through
Yeah.
track by track to make sure that it's validated before we go out.
Right.
But at least we have something to work off.
Right. All right, well, I'm not sure if there's any more questions. I think it's a good start, and I think we need to continue having this dialogue and conversation, and we'll see the progress that we're making, and I'm really intrigued to see what Inspection Services does, because that's been a very challenging department in the city, and to try to bring them up to speed and be more, give them the tools that they need so they can be more assertive. That's gonna be important. Sure.
I just had one other thing to say, because I know that there's people listening at home, that you mentioned, there's a really key piece that you mentioned in there, that there is monies to help people who are trying to rehab their homes or that they probably don't know that that the city can help them out. So Anna, if you could please give them your phone number so that they know how to get in contact with you at Community Development.
Sure, for rehab, it would be Olivia Rosa, who's the intake specialist for rehab.
Miguel
Give her
Rosa?
number.
Olivia Rosa?
Olivia Rosa.
Yes, and actually, we all work together, so if you can contact any of us. We have Olivia Rosa, we have Mark Bosber, we have Lloyd De Jesus, and Nestor De Jesus, and myself, Evelyn Urena. The phone numbers are 978-620-3522 and 620-3518.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion to table this item?
Motion to table?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
We'll see
coming.
you and/or Mr. Barnes in 3 months.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is a good list.
All right, next on the agenda, we'll go right to the very top, is document number 12714, surplus property at 300-306 Prospect Street. By the way, did we accept the minutes yet? Did we do that?
No.
I'm not sure if we did
I
that.
would make a motion to approve the minutes from our April 15th meeting.
Motion made.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
April 15th minutes.
approval of minutes for April 15th.
Mr. McCarthy, you are on, sir.
Good evening, committee, council members. Dan McCarthy, 25 Essex Street. I'm the city land use planner, and I'm here for 5 documents for the declaration of properties for surplus for the purposes of selling these properties.
And while Mr. McCarthy is distributing this information, I want to welcome
Thank you.
a distinguished gentleman from Mount Vernon, Mr. Roger Toomey. Welcome, Mr. Toomey.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we have 5 properties that we're looking to declare surplus, and these properties were kind of targeted by the city. We've had potential users for these properties, been looking to buy them. The value of these properties is fairly low, except for one. I believe the Oxford Street one is the only one that's even assessed at over $10,000. The rest of them are fairly minor. There would be direct distributions either for yard sale or because of the zoning, they may be done as direct disposition. But the city has purposes for the transfer or ideas for transfer of all of these properties. The only one that really isn't is the Oxford Street property, which is a property that we acquired. We do have some interested buyers in that property, and that'll be done through the RFP process.
So, yeah, so just to recap, so we have 5 properties here, just to set the table. This is the first phase, if we're looking to go ahead and look to do any kind of property transfer or sell the property, we must first declare it surplus, which means, of course, that every department in the city has an opportunity to make a claim, if they will, or declare some interest, if they have it. And so that happens before, that should have already happened before we get these properties, right? You already said every,
What I'm passing out right now is about the real estate needs assessment. And we send these out to the different departments, and you can see it from the response. We did receive 5 out of 30, out of city, out of 30 city departments, we didn't receive 5 of these back. There is a provision inside that says if the person does not send it back within the period of time, then it indicates that they don't have an interest in it. But as you can see, we did get 25 responses back, and so I try and familiarize myself with the properties as much as possible. So for a particular one like the Lawrence Street is right next to a school, we made sure that we got a written response back from the school department. If there was something next to a fire department, we do the same. But as you can see, most of these properties are isolated properties. So the personnel department, the budget and finance office, the public library, the Veterans Affairs, and the city council are the 5 bodies that didn't respond.
it's a blemish, Mr. President.
So
So I don't see the schools on here.
It's halfway down. Chris Maloney is the property maintenance person who you
Oh, school,
maintains.
thank you.
And I got a response back from him today.
So this sheet goes out,
That sheet does not go out.
sorry.
A draft sheet goes out with a detailed response with all the information that you have. Ask them to review the properties and then to respond back.
so these 5 properties that we're about to talk to here shortly, so we don't know this because this sheet doesn't say this, but they understand that they're looking at these 5 properties.
Correct.
And they're responding to you on those 5.
Correct.
Okay, right, so again, it's at the table, so we've gone ahead, once this thing, if this goes through this evening by the Housing Committee and approved by the full City Council, now they're declared surplus, now the city can make some hay on this properties, whether to either build on it ourselves, or we could sell it, and now we're able to go ahead and put out the bid, for example, but this is the first step, correct?
Correct.
And just to recap again, I'm sorry, there's a lot of information being thrown at us. 25 Oxford Street is your big ticket item out of these 5, and out of all of them, that's the one that's received some sort of interest to date.
They've all received interest. They've all received interest. The 25 Oxford Street, we believe, is a commercial property that abuts 3 other properties, and it's been of interest for a market on corner of Essex Street and Oxford Street for a number of years. They fenced it off and have taken care of it. But the other abutters do get an opportunity to bid on it. But this one is being done through an RFP, a closed bid, because the value is over $16,000. Now, we could do a direct disposition because it's under 25, but we felt that because it's a marketable property, it's a business district, that would be proper to do it under an RFP process.
Can you do a direct disposition without having declared surplus?
No.
Everything's gotta be declared surplus,
Correct.
whether it's to direct disposition or if it's an RFP. All has to go and be
That
declared
is
surplus
correct.
first.
Transfer to the property, it has to be declared surplus. Even, I believe even to lease a property, you have to declare it surplus.
So we have 2 bites of the apple for the council. Bite number 1 comes tonight at the full council level on this item, as far as if we have any interest in what direction they should go in. Bite number 2 comes later, if there's something that comes before us, but you'll already have a proposal before us. You've got a buyer here, or extension here, but you've really got something. At that point, we're either going to, again, we can vote it down, but we can't amend it. So it's either
That is correct.
up or down, or whatever it is that's coming before us. I just want to make sure, as a reminder, what the rules are, so we know how this is going. Questions?
I do, thank you. 306 Prospect Street.
Yes.
You said that there's a shown interest on that property already?
There's 2 abutting properties to this. One of the abutting properties actually was one of the persons who formerly owned this and owed the money and lost the property tax title. So they don't qualify for taking property. If you owe us money, you don't, they can't take it property from us. So there's only one abutter. The person who, there's a picture there that shows a building in the back with needs a lot of work.
Which is now being repaired.
That's correct. I do have some pictures of the repaired building, and the person's put a lot of money in it. He's expressed an interest of purchasing the Prospect Street property so that when the 3-family is finished, he'll have parking for his tenants.
So that area, that's what I was concerned with.
Yep.
What would become of that property? Because it's right on the corner.
Yes.
It's right on the corner of the court, and it's also right next door to a store and a barber shop, and it's a heavily dense area.
Correct. So the property,
So, Mr. Bajani no longer owns that house,
correct.
and that house was taken over or taken from him, if that's, or
I
did he
believe
sell
so.
the property?
Yes. He sold the property, and I think the other person has entered into a payment plan with the city to pay off the taxes.
Okay,
And he's been the one doing the work on the property.
okay. So, if and when we declare the surplus, that the interest for 300 to 306 will be for solely parking for that home?
Yeah, that would be the most likely scenario. I mean, right now, what we're doing is we have a property task force. So before any of these direct programs are done or direct ideas are done, we'll go back to the task force to review this because, again, these haven't been declared surplus. So what you're talking about, this 3-family, makes all the sense in the world because it is the only available property. But it's not that we've just made a determination willy-nilly this person gets it. It still has to go through a process.
Well, I'm just saying only because, like I was saying, we have parking problems in that area. There is like no parking for the barber shop, there's no parking for the store. On the other end,
The problem with that is the person who owns the green building is the same one who owned all the other buildings and let him go into debt. So he cannot purchase it.
I understand that. So the green building where the store and the barber shop and all of that is still owned by that person?
Correct,
And the back building was sold?
correct.
Wow. Okay. So on the other side, it wouldn't be able to work anyways, because the liquor store is also owned by that person.
That's correct.
If you can indulge me in who it is that's looking to purchase this 300 to 306?
Excuse me?
Who is the person that's looking to purchase 300 to 306?
Prospect Street? I don't know his name. I have his paperwork back to the office. I just have, if you like, I could pass some pictures out for the other members.
Is it a private person or is it a real estate identity? I just wanted to make sure what's going on over there. Yeah.
On the microphone.
Look at how nice they're doing the house.
Mr. McCarthy?
It's just a,
Mr. McCarthy? It's okay, you can ignore me. Thank you for ignoring me.
I'm sorry. It was, I wanted you to just physically look at something, because I'm so sorry.
From this side.
Difference.
On these papers, it seems like it goes property description, photo.
Yep.
Property description, photo. So the last one here with the Lala School,
There is no photograph of that.
that's what I was trying to figure out. Thank you, sorry. I didn't mean to have you get your exercise there.
Por eso que estás haciendo esa pregunta.
Sorry.
Did you see the picture of, that's this house? That's what it looks like now.
Oh, that's impressive.
That is that,
Wow.
exactly.
Looks like it's burnt out.
It was burnt, it didn't have a roof, it was just a dumping ground for a long, long time. There's another property here, and, which goes into East Haverhill Street, and on this side, there's like a liquor store and all of that good stuff, but I
So the
just
point you're
wanted.
so you think, just so I can understand, you think you've got a good potential purchaser for that property?
Well, what I'm hearing is that the person who bought this home on the court, is looking to purchase this property here for parking for this home, because the only abutter here, which would be this person, cannot buy this property because of problems with this, not, for the taxes and not doing anything here. So I just wanted to make sure that the identity that's trying to buy this property here is not a real estate that's gonna come and build some duplexes or something on here, because this is so dense, there's no parking on the street, there's like, so that would only bring like a huge overcrowdedness to that whole situation over there. So I wanted to make sure that it would be used for maybe like open space or parking or something of that sense, because there's really like nowhere or no way to put a house on that well, I wouldn't want a house on that property, being on that corner and not having any parking anywhere around there. If we were gonna put homes in there, it would only cause more problems there than it would to fix the situation.
Oh, no,
So
I
wanted
agree
to
with
make
you
sure-
completely.
I wanted to make sure that we're not selling this to real estate companies that want to come in here and get the property at a low price and then put these huge houses on there.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that because that would require all kinds of permits that none of the boards would be willing to give.
Definitely, okay.
I'm not putting words in your mouth, Counselor, but it sounds as though she would like to see this for parking and very directed. So when the RFP, if this goes out, it will be declared surplus, I'm presuming. When the RFP goes out, the RFP can be drafted in such a way where it could be focused toward parking for that particular?
Because of the value of the properties, I don't know the price offhand you have right there. I think it's valued $3,000.
Direct?
We don't have to go to RFP. We could just do direct disposition.
Direct disposition.
And we'd make conditions.
Yard
in it.
sale thing? Is that what you-
Typical, yes, and you're familiar with the yard sale conditions, is that they have to be for open space or parking or some other use, and they have to merge the property, so that property will become part of the triple decker. So instead of having a three-family with no parking, we'd have a three-family with sufficient parking for the tenants.
Now, what's happening with the little spot on the other side of that I know that we're not talking about the house.
Yep.
We're talking about this here. But I know that here, there's like a little parking area or alleyway that goes to East Haverhill Street, does that belong to that house?
No,
So it belongs to the other house on the other end?
I believe so. I'm vaguely familiar with it, not too,
I want to make sure that, yeah, we're not giving this person all, half a block either.
Would it be helpful, I mean, this is the counselor's district, I mean, you kind of heard what she would like to see happen. Would it be helpful if the committee took a vote to endorse, for example, or strongly recommend that it be a direct disposition? Would that be helpful at all? Or do you just want to just take it as you goes?
I mean, I understand the complications, and what Councilor Amonte is saying is absolutely true. And I can't imagine that we'd try and fit a house in there or try and do a commercial sale of that lot because of the conditions. I don't think it's necessary, because I'm confident that it would be used for either some open space process or parking for this house. That's it.
Okay. It's really on Councilor Almonte's call. If she wants to do that, I would
Sure.
support it. If she doesn't want to,
Yeah.
that's fine too.
I mean, and
so.
it's only 1,825 square feet, not like
That's
it's a
correct.
buildable lot. And then the other thing too, I know I'm getting, I want to know who the owner of this property is, because I know that the barber shop has been looking for some type of, they've come to me to look for some type of parking or something there, but because of the 20 feet, there's a driveway here, there's a court here, there's like no parking anywhere around here. On the other end on East Haverhill Street, that if you come in 20 feet from East Haverhill and Prospect, then you have a driveway at the end of the building. There's like no parking.
Yeah.
Any way to suit parking in that area. So I was thinking maybe if I got information regarding who the property owner is, or, I don't know, then maybe we could talk sense into making that functional, not just for that property, but to alleviate some of the, because I'm pretty sure that he's gonna have a problem with, unless he fences it and all that stuff, with people seeing that there's parking there and it's gonna be nicely paved in whatever situation they're gonna have there. And they're gonna wanna park there because there's no parking on the street. So it's just,
Didn't we, recently we denied, there was a request for the grocery store,
yes, and it was denied.
and it was denied.
Because there was no way of figuring out parking for
Because
that area.
of the room, the amount of space that was.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm saying, I didn't know. I'd love to meet with, if I can get the personal information of that, the owner of that property, that was bought, so that I could figure out that situation there. I just wouldn't want, I don't know,
Wouldn't the grocery owner, the grocery store owner would be interested also?
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He would be interested, and so wouldn't the guy at the barber shop, and, because they've come to me regarding the situation, and they have this huge lot where the triple decker isn't gonna park 20 cars in there, which you could probably park about 15 cars in that lot. So I just didn't know. So if, before you leave here tonight, if I can probably get some information regarding who the landlord is, so that I can get in contact with him. And talk to him about some of the situations that have been happening there, so he's privy to what could happen on that lot.
okay, very
But
good.
we're here just to declare it surplus, I am.
Yeah, it's the very first thing.
Correct.
So why don't we do this? If there's no further questions, why don't we just take it as a block? Document number 127, 128, 129, 130, and 131. And you can just,
Second.
we're gonna read the address just so it has there. It has 300 and 306 I'll say it slower. 300 and 306 Prospect Street, 55 and 57 Haverhill Street, 47 Hampshire Street, 25 Oxford Street, and 173, 175 Lawrence Street. The motion's been made to declare all these properties surplus, and it has been seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. So it's sent to the council with a favorable recommendation. Okay. I don't think there's anything else we want to talk about tonight, is
I
there?
have a question for Mr. McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy,
Mr. McCarthy? Sir? You
I
have
have a
a
question
moment?
for you.
Excuse me?
I have a question for you.
Certainly.
Obviously, from time to time, we sell these properties to butters or investors and so on and so on, and there are specific conditions that are placed on these properties. How do we know whether these conditions have been met on those properties that we have already sold?
Yeah, those
Is there
condi,
2 item agendas? I'm sorry, right here. I wanted to talk about that too,
Okay.
really quickly if I could.
Because, do we know the amount of time that is given to the individuals who purchase the property to do what they said they were going to do?
Little triangle that used
yes, typically, there's a set of conditions that are negotiated as part of the sale, and they go into place before it. They're made covenants, and they're put into the deed, in the mortgage, they're called mortgage covenants, and they're recorded. So that person, to do any kind of transaction, has to get a release of those requirements. That requires a letter from me. I usually, maybe once a year, will go, in the spring or the summer, will go out and look through some of the properties and to see what, and then I generate a letter to say whether the person's comply with that or not. That letter then goes to the city attorney's office. So so for the yard sale programs, which is talking about small projects, that's the procedure that we do. We follow up on it. Some of the larger sales of properties in the RFPs, we've had problems with them in the past, getting enforcement for what they're gonna promise they're gonna do as part of the RFP. Like I said, the yard sale program is very specific. We require them to merge the properties with the primary lot, with their home, clean it up. If they're gonna make it a yard, they have to seed it. If they're gonna make it a parking area, they have to follow the proper procedure. We'll go out there, do an inspection, and then we'll give them the letter. That will get them a release so they can go back on, because otherwise, without that release, they couldn't get a bank loan, they couldn't sell the home, they couldn't get financing or anything. So the yard sale and the small properties, we've been very strong and very efficient in making sure that people comply with it. Like I said, there's been a number of properties over the past 9 years that we've had to fight with people to get them to do what they're supposed to do.
Did you intend it for some kind of report to be submitted?
We're not gonna take anything off the table
There-
tonight.
There, if I can just indulge on those two documents. There are some documents that I had placed on there because I drive around and I see that there were city-owned properties that we have sold in the yard sales, and nothing had been done with the properties. Spring came and went, they had 30 days to fence it, clean it, XYZ. So what I was thinking of when Councilor Maldonado spoke about it, maybe taking it off the table. But what I'm gonna do is, since spring is here, I'm gonna go around to the properties, because I have a list already, and take pictures. And then we can come and, instead of talking into the blind where we don't have any official documentation in front of us saying this is what it looked like when it was purchased, this is what it looks like now, the same or different, that we could talk about those situations. So I'm thinking that for our next housing committee meeting, we will be taking these items off the table and speaking about what has been done with the city-owned properties and which ones are still pending, if there's like deed restriction, deed problems and title problems, or what's going on. Is there a check still there and no one's come to sign paperwork, or what are we waiting for to have the process be moved?
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so, we're not gonna have the vote tomorrow night on the surplus, that's gonna wait
No.
for a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Then second meeting in May. And if there's no other further discussion this evening, I'll call the,
Motion adjourned?
motion to adjourn, to be made and seconded.
All in,
You got it, all in favor, say aye, the ayes have it.
sorry. Thank you and have.